Russian President Vladimir Putin has adopted a firm stance against Israel in light of the Gaza situation, emphasizing that external forces are actively seeking to instigate a perilous escalation that could engulf the entire region. Putin explicitly cautions against the far-reaching consequences of an Israeli intervention in Gaza, highlighting the injustice of punishing innocent civilians, including women, children, and the elderly, for the actions of third parties. In this video, we delve into a warning issued within a context where Russia and numerous other countries express concerns about the potential expansion of the conflict beyond the Middle East. What unfolds, and what lies at the heart of this situation? Join us as we uncover the dynamics, commencing with an exploration of Israeli-Russian relations. The relations between Russia and Israel appear to be deteriorating. According to Bloomberg, Israel has decided to no longer systematically warn Russia before it strikes in Syria. Moscow has been supporting the Syrian government led by Bashar al-Assad, and tensions have risen due to Israel's intense offensive in Gaza following the October 7th attack. This situation is strengthening ties between Moscow and Iran, Israel's declared enemy, particularly in terms of military cooperation. The impact of the strained Russo-Israeli relations is evident in Syria, where the Assad government relies on Iranian and Russian support for its security since the 2011 civil war. Bloomberg reports that Israel has changed its policy by not notifying Russia in advance of its strikes in Syria, a practice that had been in place since 2018. Syrian state media reported on October 22nd that the airports in Damascus and Aleppo were out of service. On October 27th, new strikes targeted Aleppo airport and Syrian positions in Daraa, east of the Golan Heights, in response to shots fired towards Israel. Israel justifies these actions by stating that Russia was not informed in advance. On October 30th, further strikes occurred in Syria, again towards Daraa, in response to rocket fire. The presence of Iranian officers and soldiers in Daraa, along with members of the Russian military police deployed in the country since 2015, has been reported. Israel perceives a political imbalance with Moscow, especially since Russia hosted a delegation from Hamas led by Musa Abu Marzouk and the Iranian Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ali Bagheri. In Moscow on October 26, tensions increased further with the attack on a plane from Tel Aviv in the Russian province of Dagestan on October 28, with Russians attributing the action to foreign intelligence services, particularly those of Ukraine. Russia characterizes Israel as an occupying power that cannot invoke legitimate defense. During the 10th emergency session of the United Nations General Assembly on Palestine held on November 1st, the Russian permanent representative Vasily Nebenzia stated that, in accordance with the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice in 2004, Israel, acting as an occupying power, does not have the right to legitimate defense against Hamas. This statement, amid an already difficult context between Tel Aviv and Moscow, indicates Russia's commitment to standing alongside Palestine for an immediate ceasefire. Nebenzia emphasized that while Israel can take action against terrorist groups, it should not have the right to wage war on the entire Palestinian population. These remarks contrast with the Western perception, notably that of the United States, which supports Israel's right to legitimate defense. Western countries, including the United States, insist that Israel has the right to legitimate defense, whereas, as an occupying power, it does not enjoy this right, as confirmed by the International Court of Justice's advisory opinion in 2004. It's worth noting that the advisory opinion definitively established Israel's status as an occupying power, making it responsible for the fate of the occupied population. Russia's call is for a fair resolution of the Palestinian issue. Vasily Nebenzia highlighted that Russia recognizes Israel's right to ensure its security, but under certain conditions. These conditions include a fair resolution of the Palestinian issue based on well-known resolutions of the UN Security Council and Israel's recognition of the existence of a Palestinian state. This Russian stance contrasts with that of the United States. On October 18th, the Americans vetoed a resolution that did not mention Israel's right to legitimate defense. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, underscored that the right to self-defense is inherent and in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. However, Nebenzia nuanced this by emphasizing that Israel has the right to defend itself, especially when combating terrorism. The Russian ambassador called for a clear distinction between actions against terrorists and those that could affect the civilian population. Furthermore, Russia expressed opposition to a potential UN authorization for Israel to conduct a ground operation in Gaza, urging the conflicting parties instead to cease hostilities and allow mediators to work towards a diplomatic resolution. The Russian ambassador did not hesitate to accuse the West and the UN Security Council of undermining de-escalation efforts. Currently, the Palestinian population is in turmoil, with reports suggesting a potential displacement towards Egypt. However, Russia warns of the consequences of such a move. Russia warns that the massive displacement of Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt, as proposed by Israel, would be catastrophic. The Israeli proposals to move Palestinians to the Egyptian Sinai are strongly criticized by Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson for the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She cautioned that such initiatives could have catastrophic consequences for both Palestinians and Israelis, as well as the region as a whole. Zakharova emphasized that these proposals could fuel bitterness and radical sentiments among the occupied populations. According to her analysis expressed at a press conference in Moscow, this could significantly worsen the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In practice, an Israeli project has emerged, considering the relocation of 2.3 million inhabitants from the Gaza Strip to the Sinai. However, it has faced immediate condemnation. Israeli authorities have attempted to downplay the document, referring to it as a hypothetical conceptual document rather than a concrete plan. Zakharova pointed out the irony in the proposal to forcibly expel the Palestinian people from their ancestral lands, coming from those who consider themselves heirs to the idea of re-establishing the Jewish state on its historical territory. This, she warned, would create a dangerous cycle that could persist. The Russian spokesperson has emphasized the need not to exacerbate the problem, but rather to take concrete measures to resolve it. She reiterated the Russian position that a lasting resolution to the conflict involves the creation of an independent Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital, coexisting peacefully and securely with Israel. Russian officials regularly reaffirmed this stance, underscoring the importance of working towards a solution that promotes stability and peace in the region. However, as they consistently emphasize, the Russians criticize a perceived willingness on the part of the Americans to prevent a fair resolution to the problem. They indeed point to the failure of the West in resolving this conflict. Putin points to U.S. failure. Vladimir Putin recently stated that the conflict between Israel and Gaza highlights the failure of U.S. policy in the Middle East. He emphasized the need to implement decisions from the United Nations Security Council in favor of creating a sovereign and independent Palestinian state. Putin criticized the United States for attempting to monopolize the resolution of the conflict without seeking acceptable compromises for both parties. He added that the West has not taken into account the fundamental interests of the Palestinian people. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had also stated that the creation of a Palestinian state was the most reliable solution for peace. However, concerning this desired peace, the Kremlin expresses concern about the actions of the United States and their motivations, which Russians describe as hindering peace. To illustrate their concern, Moscow points to the approaching U.S. warships to Israel. In the same vein, several observers and analysts explain that the United States has not definitively embraced a return to calm for various reasons. They aim to dismantle Hamas, a historical ally of Iran, which poses challenges to their economic and political interests in the region. Beyond their unwavering support for the Israeli government, the United States seeks to weaken the Palestinian group, a move that would effectively undermine Iran's influence in the region, as emphasized by Sebastian Boussois, a Ph.D. in political science, international political consultant, and lecturer in international relations. Today, America no longer emerges victorious in conflicts and no longer facilitates the establishment of peace. This sentiment appears to resonate with many today. The two-state solution is the long-term resolution that Vladimir Putin advocates for addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. During the plenary session of the Russian Energy Week, Putin asserted that Russia's position on the conflict has remained unchanged for decades, emphasizing the implementation of United Nations Security Council decisions in favor of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. He criticized U.S. policies in the Middle East, accusing the United States of prioritizing financial aid over solutions to fundamental political challenges. As reiterated throughout the video, Putin underscored the need to find compromises rather than exacerbating the situation. He reminded that the expansion of the conflict could have disastrous consequences. In the context of escalating tensions in the Middle East, the Russian president emphasized the relevance of maintaining an approach based on negotiations and diplomatic agreements to promote stability and prevent the escalation of the conflict. Closing on this intriguing note, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure to subscribe for more captivating content. Stay tuned for exciting updates and more videos, all in Cultination.